They tell us America is a democracy where every citizen has the right to vote. But what they don't tell us is that our vote is only as safe as the people in power allow it to be. That if you're the wrong kind of voter, black, brown, young, poor, urban, or now a married woman who changed her last name, the system is designed to make you fight for a right that was supposedly guaranteed to you at birth. Because the Republican Party isn't even pretending anymore. They aren't trying to win elections. They're trying to erase the voters who stand in their way. They've built a machine that doesn't need to flip votes or stuff ballots. It just needs to make enough people disappear. I know what you're saying, but this isn't speculation. This isn't paranoia. This is documented, investigated, and proven. Journalist Greg Palast, who has spent over 2 decades exposing voter suppression, has already uncovered hundreds of thousands of voters wiped from existence in 2024 alone. In Georgia, 187,000 voters were flagged for removal in the months leading up to the election. Palast's team found that many of these voters hadn't moved or changed addresses at all. They were simply erased. In Wisconsin, tens of thousands of ballots, many from black and student-heavy precincts, were challenged and thrown into pending status, meaning they were never counted. In Texas and Florida, mail-in ballots from urban centers were disproportionately rejected for minor technicalities. Things like a signature that didn't match perfectly or a second missing envelope. And now they found a new target: married women. For decades, voter suppression targeted racial minorities, poor people, and young voters. But in 2024, something changed. For the first time in modern history, married white women started shifting away from the Republican Party. And like clockwork, Republicans found a new way to disqualify them. Now in states like Georgia, Arizona, Florida, and Wisconsin, election officials are challenging ballots for women whose ID doesn't exactly match their voter registration. Think about that for a second. A woman gets married, changes her last name, updates her social security card, her passport, and her driver's license. But if her voter registration still has her maiden name, she's flagged. She's forced to prove her identity, jump through extra bureaucratic hoops, or worse, her vote is thrown out altogether. The Republicans call it election security. But we should call it what it really is: a targeted, coordinated effort to strip away the rights of women to vote. Here's the thing: this isn't about election security. It's about election nullification. The Republican Party knows they can't win the youth vote, so they shut down campus polling places. They know they can't win the black vote, so they gut voter protections. They know that they can't win the Latino vote, so they flood election offices with challenges to Spanish-sounding last names. And now they know they're losing women, so they've built a loophole, a quiet little technicality to erase married women from the voting rolls without ever passing a single new law. For years, we've been told to wait. Wait for the courts to fix it. Wait for Congress to act. Wait for some grand, bipartisan solution, as if the people ripping apart our democracy will suddenly have a crisis of conscience and start playing fair. We've waited long enough, because the truth is, no one is coming to save us. The Democratic Party? They've watched this happen in real time. They've held press conferences, sent out fundraising emails, talked about how deeply concerned they are, and yet here we are. Another election, another cycle of purges, of nullifications, of people walking into their polling stations only to be told their democracy doesn't belong to them anymore. Here's the thing: the Democratic establishment, as it exists right now, isn't built to fight. It's built to react. It's built to lose politely. They talk about playing by the rules, while the other side rewrites the rule book every election. They bring paper ballots to a gunfight. They act as if democracy is a fixed institution instead of something that needs to be defended, rebuilt, and remade every single day. And if we wait for them to act, if we expect them to pull our asses out of the fire, if we think that they will pull off some miraculous last-second rescue of our democracy, we're gonna lose everything. We don't have time for their empty speeches. We don't have time for their weak outrage. We don't have time for their damn emails begging for $5 so they could protect democracy when they haven't even protected our right to vote. So we have to save them, not because they deserve it, not because they've earned it, but because the alternative, the collapse of this fragile, flawed, and messy democracy, is worse than any disappointment you or I have ever felt. We have to step in and do what they won't. And in doing so, we don't just save the Democratic Party, we remake it, we rebuild it. We inject new blood, new energy, and new leadership into a party that has spent far too long waiting for someone else to take the first step. We don't do this to save politicians. We don't do this to save a party. We do it to save ourselves, because no one else will.